get up, read his column with my coffee cup. Never ever start the day without a will. His wit and wisdom let me see all the foibles of the century. There's no way to start my day without a will. Just multiplying by a million. From Gotham out to Frisco Bay. Those Toms and Dicks and Jacks and Jillians are asking, hey, did you see what Will said today? He's also king of Hollywood now. He stands when Valentino's the biggest movie star of ours, our Will. At any time around the clock, might keep pouring all around the block, watch until a movie silver our Will. He's got more fans than Shirley Temple. He's got more fans than Shirley Temple. He beat her out at #1. He beat her out as #1. He draws more crowds than Amy Semple. He draws more crowds than Amy Semple. The country rather do the dance that will become Will-O-Mania. This dance has swept the nation. Will-O-Mania. Dance of communication. Black bottom trousers, you have seen your last days. So strap yourself, use your hand and do the new breeze. We call it Will-O-Mania. It's intercontinental, real short dance alright. The ships are shooting now and engines in hand. So grab your clothes, grab your coat, everybody's there. Once a week can't end my day without a will. Rush home so I won't get there late, 'cause I got this very special thing. Once a week a night belongs to my Will. I need the coast-to-coastal network. His words go floating everywhere. Each family hopes to make it settle, so they can say, just hear what Will said on the air. Did you hear what Will said on the air? Did you hear what Will said on the air? Did you hear, did you hear, did you hear, did you hear what Will said on the air? Will-O-Mania. This dance has swept the nation. Will-O-Mania. Dance of communication. The flappers should be slicker, form and then root. Connect
didn't like highfalutin gent or Bowery bum. Yes, I've come a long way down the pike. Never met a man I didn't like. Howdy! Well, I'm glad to see all of you folks out there tonight, especially since Sunday night's my favorite show of the week. Now, I didn't say that last night. No, sir. Last night I said Saturday was my favorite show. Now, it occurs to me that most of you folks, when you hear the name Will Rogers, you just automatically reach for your pockets. And I'll bet some of you are still half expecting the ushers to come down the aisles and pass those little cans down the rows to collect your loose change for the Will Rogers Hospital and Institute. Well, now that money does a whole lot of good work, but you can relax, we won't be doing that tonight. Mainly because we took most of your money when you bought your tickets. Can you believe the price of theater tickets these days? When I saw what they were asking for this show, I thought they were still looking for investors. So I reckon that means we owe you something for it, so I'd better get to work. See ya! Don't go far now. Thank you. You know, this little act with the rope's the same one I've been annoying audiences with all my life, and Mr. Ziegfeld, too. Well, he only puts up with my act to kill time while the girls are changing from nothing into nothing. Anyway, I was kind of surprised to hear from Mr. Florence Ziegfeld after all these years, and I was even more surprised when he suggested it was time to do another one of his Follies, especially since the last one he personally produced was over 70 years ago in 1931. But he said not to worry about the order of things because his idea of my life was a whole lot more theatrical than the way I actually lived it. And that he'd be able to set us straight from time to time because he'd be looking down. Oh, not from heaven. Oh, no. I'd be mighty surprised if he ended up anywhere in that particular vicinity. No, he meant from the Latin booth, which is right up there. That's right. Just up past where you folks way up there are sitting. He can look through that little window and see how his show's moving along.
Move it along, Mr. Rogers.
So I guess I better move it along. Oh, before I forget, I want to introduce you to a really famous person sitting right here in our audience. America's greatest aviator and a fellow Oklahoman, Mr. Wiley Post. Stand up, Wiley.
Let's go flying, Will.
Anytime, partner. You know, Wiley's the first fella in history to fly solo around the world, and he did it in just under 8 days. Heck, nowadays you can almost send a letter clear across town in that amount of time. Oh, you're doing just fine, folks. We'll get out of here early tonight. It takes twice as long when you have to explain the jokes. Great seeing you, Wiley. All right, let's try this now. Believe it or not, there's a lot of folks who say this ain't respectable work. My pa having been one of them. But there's nothing wrong with swinging a rope, long as your neck's not in it. As a kid, I tied some knots. I learned to make a loop. Spun it horizontal to the ground. Practiced lassoing the fence posts and most anything I'd found. I'd even rope my sisters if they dared come around. This pastime was my solitary skill. And people asked, what will become of Will? So I told them, give man enough rope. Give man enough rope. And he can hang himself or not. That is the choice that he has got. He could wind up hanging down from a tree, or he could spin himself alive. That's what happened to me. Give man enough rope. Give man enough rope. Give man enough rope. Give man enough rope. You hang two guys with a pile of dough. One spins it fast, one saves it slow. You make a choice. You make a choice. Up to you what you do. This act ain't much, but through it I met kings and queens, and I got to meet you. Everybody spins with a different twist. Some use elbow grease, some just flick the wrist. If you want to aim for a great big go for broke, just let her go. Never let them see that there's effort there. You may sweat inside, but be debonair. You go for tears or you go for jokes. Shrug it off, it's nothing, folks. Give man enough rope. Give man enough rope. It's good to set your sights up high, but don't expect pie in the sky. A guy might rush for that old pot of gold. He might not reach the rainbow's end because, my friend, the world is round, or so we are told.
I've got to choose to run a bank. Another listen to a soil, or practice law or violin,
or maybe sell banana oil.
Banana oil. One builds a barn, one writes a song.
One digs a ditch, one teaches school.
One digs a ditch, one teaches school.
But from the day I came along, I've always been a roping fool.
He's just a roping fool.
What are you doing? Uh-huh.
Come on, Will. Show us something we can't do.
All right. Give a man enough rope. Give a man enough rope. And he can get all tangled in the figure eights he tries to spin. But I've had luck, and my rope made me free. I spun my fancy figures, wrote my columns, made my speeches, loved my horses, loved my family, spun a lovely life. That's what happened to me.
Give a man enough rope.
Here's today's New York Times, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. No, she does wonders for the circulation of the Times. Well, like I always say, all I know is what I read in the papers. Now, it's a fact that the New York Times is the only newspaper in New York that has writing to go along with its pictures. My father always liked the Times on account of they never used to clutter his mind with 2 points of view. All right, now. August 15th, 2004. Bush stands by decision for proposed nuclear dump site. N-U-C-L-E-A-R. Nuclear. You know, you'd think that the man who has access to the button ought to be able to at least pronounce all the words in the manual. Yeah, maybe it gets funnier on the inside. Cold weather chills tourist trade in Nice, France. You know why they pronounce that town Nice? Because the French don't have a word that means nice. All right. Uh-huh. Long Island housewife shoots husband. Well, now that's the third one this week. Season must open a month early this year. You know, it's a funny thing, but these are some of the exact same items I used to find in the paper 60, 70 years ago. So maybe some of the things I said back then might make a little bit of sense today. Let's find out. Anybody got a 60-year-old newspaper back there? Thank you. Okay. August 17th, 1935. Will Rogers and Wiley Post die in airplane crash in Alaska. Now, we don't need to be reminded of that, do we, Wiley?
Let's go flying, Will.
You know, old Wiley's still the greatest flyer in history, if and you don't count that one time. Could you make that a 70-year-old newspaper?
Here's your 70-year-old newspaper, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. All right. The New York Times, February 27th, 1921. New Yugoslav Republic torn by ethnic strife. Anti-cigarette legislation pending in 42 states. President accused of philandering. You sure this is the old newspaper? You know, I got a strange feeling they've been stealing money from us by putting out the same paper for the last 70 years. President vows to trim excess fat in government. You know, our last president could have done that real quick by just skipping a few trips to McDonald's. No, I tried to tell the president all the latest political jokes, but it was too late. He'd already gone and appointed. Another filibuster paralyzes Congress. How they love to talk. You know, the other day a congressman stood up and objected to a certain Oklahoma comedian poking fun at the Congress. Well, the thing about my little jokes is they don't hurt nobody. But with the Congress, every time they make a joke, it's a law. And every time they make a law, it's a joke. SNL vice president robbed. And I thought there was an understanding that crooks didn't rob crooks. You folks want to talk that one over amongst yourselves? And I don't know what banks do with all those vice presidents they got. The United States only has one, and we still haven't found anything for him to do. Thank God. Well, at least this one can spell potato. And say nuclear. All right. Now, this next part's the part where Mr. Ziegfeld wants me to introduce someone very special.
Stall.
What?
Stall.
How much time do they need?
A minute.
A minute. Okay. Mama told me there'd be days like this. A minute. Now, I know a small rope trick like this don't look like much until you realize there's no such thing as a big rope trick. Now, this one here is called the merry-go-round. Most amazing thing about that trick is you folks paid good money to see it. This here's called the wedding ring. Guess that makes this the divorce. All right, I like to call this next trick the Hollywood wedding ring, or the Britney Spears. Oh, sorry, Brittany. Just try that one again real quick. Go on. There we go. Thank you. Dear, do you have another rope for me back there?
15 seconds.
What?
15.
15 seconds, all right. Thank you. Okay, this next trick's one of my favorites. The Texas skip. Looks like I got all my feet through but one. All right. I better get serious about this now. All right. Now, the Texas skip. Thank you. All right. Now, this is the place where Mr. Ziegfeld wants me to introduce someone very important. Important to me, that is. Mainly on account of, without him, I wouldn't be up here right now. And that's my pa, Mr. Clement V. Rogers. But first, I gotta set up the scene. That there's our little farmhouse in Oklahoma. And those are my 6 beautiful sisters. And the date is Tuesday, November 4th, 1879. And the reason I remember that so good is, that's the day I was born.
Yippee-yay! Yippee-yi! I hit the old bullseye. Hooray, 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 at last it's a boy. Hey, I got me a boy. Step right up, it's a boy. I got a son and an heir. What else could compare? I haven't a care. I want to sing hosannas. Hooray, hooray, although I love all my girls. 6 is plenty of girls. After all of those girls, I gave it 1 extra shot. Kept praying a lot, and look what I got. I'm passing out hosannas. Yippee-yi-yi. You keep the shine on the family name. Yippee-yi-yi. His pa's a rancher, so he'll be the same. With cattle standing out yonder for miles around. That's why I'm passing the smokes and the smiles around. Hooray, 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 at last it's a male. And this powerful whale says he's hearty and hale. And he'll be proudest at me when he knows that he is part Cherokee like his pa. My hopes no longer are slim. I'm way out on a limb. Hopes are riding on him. And he'll grow up to be a hell of a man. I'll make him a man, a hell of a man like yours truly. Hooray, hooray, hooray for my lucky star. Have a cigar, I'm jumping for joy. At last it's a boy. You gotta keep trying. At last it's a boy.
Well, now that I'm 13 years old, Pa, I got some bad news.
Oh, Lord, son, don't tell me you were expelled from school again.
Sorry, Pa, but the principal and I couldn't agree on how to run that school.
You've got to get an education, boy, so you'll never have to worry about winding up in the Congress. Well, I sent you to 6 schools in the past 7 years. You never got past the 5th grade because you kept saying things no one wanted to hear. You've got to stop telling people the truth, son. They're just not used to it. Oh, Lord, what am I going to do with this boy?
Smack him on the butt, Paul! Smack him on the butt!
Get married!
Sorry, Pa, but the other kids keep making fun of me. They call me a redskin.
You're not a redskin, well, you're an Indian, and don't you ever forget it. I'm 3/8 of Cherokee, and your ma is 1/4.
Guess if I ever made it past the 5th grade, I'd know exactly how much of a Cherokee that made me.
I want you to be proud of your Indian blood, son. Just remember one thing. Our people didn't come over on the Mayflower. We met the boat.
Well, now that I'm 19 years old, I've got an announcement to make.
Sounds like more bad news to me.
I made up my mind, Pa. I'm going down to the Argentine.
The Argentine? What the hell for?
Well, I hear they're looking for cowboys down there, Pa, and that's what I aim to be.
I always counted on you staying here and running this ranch.
Oh, it's not in me to run anything, Pa. Why can't I do with my life what I want to?
I reckon you will, son. But I wouldn't be a good father if I didn't try to make it as difficult as possible. Stop twirling the damn rope when I'm talking to you. When your ma died, I promised to raise you proper. I'm getting ready to admit defeat. Sometimes I think the only reason for your birth was to give me something curious to look at in my old age. Now you're staying here, and that's final.
Sorry, Pa, but I'm going to Argentina.
And I say you're staying here to run this ranch.
I hate to tell you this, Pa, but I can't think of any way you're going to stop me.
Me neither. All right, Willie. You're going to the Argentine, but I have to tell you something. When you've ruined your life and you're down and out, without a friend in the world or a dollar to your name, I want you to remember this piece of fatherly advice. I told you so! Now get the hell out while I'm still in a good mood.
We're still here, Pa!
Get married! All I can say is a man's a fool if he thinks a son's going to come anywhere near living up to his father's dream for him. Hooray, hooray, some dirty work has been done. He can't be the real one. Can't be Clem Rogers' son. He says he don't want to ranch. He's some rotten branch. Must be part Comanche for sure. To Argentina he'll steam. What a crackpotted steam. It's the end of my dream. 'Cause he will never be that hell of a man. I looked up to man, a hell of a man like yours truly. But what the hey, I still got my girl. 6 million curls, I'm jumping for joy. Goodbye, Willie boy. And don't write for money. Goodbye, Willie boy.
Well, now, I'm sure my pa did everything in the world for me and tried to make more out of me than I am. But how come amounting to something is always somebody else's idea of what you should do with your life? You know, it's a funny thing, but the minute a man becomes a father, it's like he forgets everything he ever knew about being a son. So long, Pa, I'm on my way to see the world so big and wide. I might find something I can do and find the guy who's here inside. So long, Pa, I'm off today. I hope before my journey ends, I'll learn to do a trick or two so you can brag to all your friends. So I'm off to Argentina, because there's a whole lot of people out there, and even back then I knew I wanted to meet as many of them as my time on earth would allow, because people are what life's all about.
Just a moment, Mr. Rogers.
Yes, Mr. Ziegfeld.
Mr. Rogers, forgive me for interrupting, but you've been out there for 2 scenes and we still haven't met the girl. As you should know, in a Ziegfeld production, the romance never starts later than the 3rd scene.
I told you folks this would happen. I know he sounds kind of bossy, but you got to remember what it was like growing up in Chicago with the first name like Florence. Well, come to think of it, Mr. Ziegfeld, I did meet Betty Blake before I went away. It was at the train station. Betty was the prettiest, sweetest gal in the territory. She's working in the freight office, and I was expecting some new flannel underwear from back east for my trip to Argentina. The kind with the trap door in the back.
How very romantic. And where was this enchanted railroad station?
Oolaga, Oklahoma.
Oh, no, Mr. Rogers. Nothing ever happens in Oolaga. In a Ziegfeld show, nothing ever happens in Oolaga. Stage manager, please.
Yes, Mr. Z.
Peter, have we got a set back there we can use? Something exotic, something Ziegfeldian?
We've got that Fiji Island set, Mr. Z.
Fiji Islands? Well, come on, Mr. Ziegfeld. You might as well say we met on the moon.
Brilliant idea, Mr. Rogers. You met your wife on the moon. Peter, go set up the moon immediately. Well, don't just stand there, Mr. Rogers. You're going to meet your wife, Betty, on the moon.
Yes, sir.
Here I am, Betty
Betty Blake, a simple farm girl from Arkansas who's staying with my favorite single sister because I landed a really swell job in the freight office of the Missouri Pacific Railroad here on the moon. But despite all of those stories about the man in the moon, I haven't met him yet.
Sing, Miss Blake.
I beg your pardon?
We've had quite enough exposition, Miss Blake. Sing, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ziegfeld. How small the earth seems, poor little planet, viewing it from a distance, light years away, way off in a starlit place. Here I sit mooning on the moon, mooning, questioning my existence, just a tiny speck alone in space. I'm drifting, I'm floating, a leaf in the wind, an aimless seedling sailing on the air. I'm empty, yet filled with some nameless feeling. I ache to come to rest somewhere in someone's arms, in someone's heart, some unknown, someone's life, somewhere. My hours are endless, my days have no shape, my nights are spent at moonlit solitaire. I'm busy, yet some wondrous thing is missing. I long for, I don't know, but I know it must be there in someone's eyes, in someone's smile, a face I'll see someday, somewhere. I'm weary of drifting, a change hovers in the air, a sea change, a sky change, I feel that it's almost there, my journey's end. Love a friend, my unknown someone, somewhere.
Excuse me, are you the station master?
I'm his assistant. Is there something I can do for you? I said, is there something I can do for you?
Did I happen to mention that I'm expecting a new pair of long underwear that's coming in on the 5 o'clock rocket?
So far, you didn't happen to mention anything at all.
Well, that's because I'm painfully shy. Oh, I once let an entire barn burn down because I was too shy to yell fire.
By any chance, are you that shiftless Rogers boy I've heard so much about who lives on a ranch a few miles out and who spends most of your time spinning a rope, so how can he possibly amount to anything?
I guess so.
Glad to meet you. I'm Betty Blake, a simple farm girl from Arkansas who's staying with my favorite single sister because
Did you say single sister? Well, it just so happens I've got a single sister too. 6 of them, in fact.
6 single sisters? Gosh, that's hard to say. You probably won't believe this, but I've got 6 single sisters myself.
Did you hear that, folks? 6 single sisters each. Isn't that amazing? It's hard to imagine 2 people with more in common than that. We'll skip the next few lines as they didn't add up to much and get right to the good part. Gosh, you're nice, Betty Blake. In fact, you look like the kind of girl who only comes along once in a blue earth.
Thank you. And you seem like a pretty down-to-moon person yourself.
I'd sure love to hear you sing sometime.
Oh, I will, Rogers. How did you know I can sing?
Well, because in a Ziegfeld show, everybody who's dressed can sing. So how about it?
You mean sing right now?
No, I meant how about my underwear? Has it come in yet?
Oh, well, the 5 o'clock ought to be arriving any minute now.
Hello there.
Hello, Mr. Engineer. How was the trip?
Ooh, not too bad. Lost a little time chugging around the Big Dipper, but I made it up along the Milky Way. Ooh, I've got this package addressed to that shiftless Rogers boy who lives on a ranch a few miles out. Feels like long underwear.
Thanks, Mr. Engineer.
So long, honey. Gotta blast off. See you in a light year or so. All aboard!
Your long underwear arrived, Will Rogers.
Oh boy, that's great. I can't wait to try them on.
I've got a better idea. Why don't we go for a long walk out to the edge of the Sea of Tranquility? I hear there's going to be a full Earth tonight.
Gee, that sounds wonderful, Betty Blake. I'd just love to. As soon as I get back from Argentina.
Argentina?
Well, that's where I've decided to seek my fortune. But when I get back, if you're still single like your 6 sisters, I'd love to take that walk. I'll only be gone a year. So long, Betty Blake. I promise to write.
Adios. Adios very much. The moon mist is lifting. A change hovers in the air. A sea change, a sky change. I feel that it's almost there. My journey's end. Lover, friend, my shiftless someone in Argentina.
All right. So he wouldn't finish his education. He didn't want to be a rancher. And he deserted me when I needed him most. But did he have to turn me into the grouchy old grump of the show? This role of Clem is all frustration mixed with rage. Unsympathetic roles can sink you on the stage. So just stick with me till my warmth comes shining through. I don't get lovable till somewhere in Act 2.
I've been asked to deliver a postcard to Miss Betty Blake. Miss Betty Blake, there's a postcard for you from Will Rogers.
Oh, thank you. Dear Blake, here I am in South Africa. South Africa?
He didn't like Argentina.
Oh, thank you. Came here on a cattle boat and I got seasick. In fact, I was so sick that even the cows couldn't bear to watch. Do you mind? When I got here, I found a job spinning a rope in
Texas Jack's Wild West Show.
What are you doing?
Practicing. I'm your understudy.
Oh. We're not exactly the same type. Why do you think they picked you?
I'm Mr. Ziegfeld's type, honey.
Oh. Anyway, now I've got some really good news. After being gone for over a year, Texas Jack is finally bringing the whole show back to the US of A as he has booked us into the St. Louis World's Fair. He's coming back. Isn't that wonderful?
There's more.
What? Oh, I know there is.
You want me to read it?
I'll do it. You just can't wait, can you? On the way home, we have to play Australia and New Zealand. So if you're counting the days like I am, the exact number is 642. 642? Well, Rogers, I'm not wasting my youth on some shiftless, uneducated, rope-throwing, no-account Cherokee show business cowboy. No, sir, not this simple farm girl from Arkansas. How long can you expect someone to sit home and wait? Especially someone who can't think of anyone else in the world she'd rather spend her entire life with, but who feels her entire life is slipping by before she ever finds out if you're really serious or not. Will Rogers, answer me that.
Excuse me, honey. You want those 642 days to go just like that?
Well, of course.
Then just leave it to me. Here, take this. Ladies and gentlemen! Well, don't just stand there, honey. Go make your change. Ladies and gentlemen, by special arrangement with Mr. Ziegfeld, that pussycat, it is now 642 days later, and the St. Louis World's Fair of 1904 presents inside and in-person genuine cowboys and Indians, displaying incredible skill and mastery of the untamed broncos and mustangs of the great American prairie. Direct from their triumphal world tour, Texas, Jack Mahols, spectacular Wild West Show.
Virginia, Zulecki. I'm sorry to have dragged you out of Texas Jack's Wild West show featuring Will Rogers, the Cherokee Kid. But I simply couldn't bear to watch a minute longer because I do not consider the show business a respectable place for a grown man to earn his living. I have been waiting for almost 3 years to see Will Rogers again, and I'm not waiting a minute longer, because just as soon as I get him to quit the show business and start behaving like a normal person, that's when I'm going to marry him.
Oh, Betty, that's wonderful. Has he asked you yet?
That depends on what you call asking.
We call asking, asking.
In that case, not yet. So now you girls are going to have to run along and see Mr. Edison's amazing Hall of Electricity, because I'm going to wait right here by the stage door to see Will Rogers, and perhaps we can settle this business once and for all.
Hello, girls!
Hello, Will.
You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd swear those were my 6 single sisters. Betty Blake, it really is you! When I saw you sitting out there in the audience, I nearly fell off my horse. What'd you think of the show?
That was just about the most disgusting spectacle I have ever witnessed.
You mean my roping act?
Oh, no, of course not. Your act was wonderful. But do you have to do it with all those people watching?
Betty, are you talking about the audience?
To stand up there in front of total strangers. Will Rogers, where's your shame?
Now, folks, how could you not love somebody like that? So I explained to her that I couldn't earn a living from just doing my act in front of friends and family, and after engaging in a little small talk that's too sappy to repeat here, we found ourselves looking down at St. Louis from atop the Ferris wheel.
Oh, Will, look! You can see all the way to Illinois.
Yeah. So I guess you had your share of fellas while I was gone.
There were a few, but only one that you had to worry about.
Yeah, who's that?
Ben Harvey. He's a promising lawyer.
Yeah, what all he promised you?
A life that has nothing whatsoever to do with the show business.
Now, hold on. What's so dad-blamed wrong with what I do? I'm happy when I'm out there in front of all those folks, and I know I'm making them happy, so don't get your hopes up about reforming me, because when you marry me, you'll get exactly what you saw under that tent tonight, including the audience and nothing more.
Oh, Will Rogers, whoever said anything about marrying you?
Well, I did. Just now. Was it a deal or not?
It's a deal.
Well, okay. Let's shake on it. We're heading for a wedding. It's gonna happen soon. Our hearts are intending to reach the happy ending that started on the moon.
Mr. Rogers, just a moment, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, stop. Mr. Rogers, what's going on down there?
Well, wedding, of course. What's it look like?
But not now, Mr. Rogers. In the Ziegfeld show, the wedding always ends the act.
Yeah, well, with Betty and me, it preceded the act. Isn't that right, honey?
Will Rogers, they can hear you.
I'm an expert on weddings, Mr. Rogers. I've had 2 of them myself. Move it along, Mr. Rogers. What happens next?
Next. After we're married, you mean? Oh. Well, I'm sure sorry, everybody, but don't worry. We'll be seeing you again at the end of the act. Let's see, what happened next? Right after I kissed the bride, and the organ player was playing Oh Promise Me, I went and promised her.
Oh, Will, do you really mean it? Are you really through playing those dreadful Wild West shows?
I sure am.
Thank you, Will.
From now on, it's strictly vaudeville.
Vaudeville?
Oh, come on, Blake, you're gonna have the time of your life. Hand in hand we will cross the land from the west coast way up to Maine. Boarding train after train, see the nation, a long vacation. What's to fear? We're together here. But my dear, before we can go, vaudeville has traditions my young wife ought to know. There's the small time and the medium time and the big time and the medium small time.
Small time and the medium time and the big time
and Kiwanis Hall time. Big time looks down on medium time.
Looks down on small time.
Looks down on accordion players. Small time.
Big time.
Big, small, medium time. On the road from Maine to Dallas, hoping that we'll play the palace. Smiles from you are a rave review. Put a big time star on my door. I can hear the crowds roar. Spotlight hits me, the spotlight fits me. When you hold me and when you love me, my name lights up the marquee. Just to know that you love me is the big time for me. See you later, honey. I gotta go do the third show, but I'll meet you after at the Mexican restaurant.
Break a neck.
Leg.
Oh, right. There's the small time and the medium time and the big time and the medium small time. Packing, unpacking, and packing. We're off to Altoona tomorrow. Goodbye, Altoona. Cooking, scrubbing, washing, ironing. Mend his breeches, feed his pony. Learn to live on cold bologna. Smiles from him make my senses swim. I get big time feelings inside. Once an ignorant bride, now I'm knowing and all a-glowing. When he holds me and when he loves me, we're close as lovers can be. On the circuit together, life is joyous and free. Thank goodness we have no family, there's only Will and me.
Howdy, I'm Will Rogers Jr.
Howdy, I'm Mary Rogers. Howdy, I'm James Rogers. Howdy. Well, here comes Freddie. We're glad our dad's in Monica. Ain't we got fun? 'Cause we've been down in any town, not just in one. Before we're bored with kids meetings, we gotta run. There's no mean old school superintendent hounding us 'cause we're independent. At night our mommy reads to us and hears us pray. Then we sneak to the music hall, watch Daddy play. Stretch your stuff, tilt your head, make the people glad. Folks ask us what we wanna be. When we grow up, we're gonna be just like Dad. Yeah! From the small time to the medium time to the big time, no more medium, small time. Up, climbing up, no more small time or Kiwanis whole time. Finish packing, let's get cracking. Wear your boots, it's gonna rain. Do your homework on the train. Smiles from us for a family plus. We're together getting along. Sometimes weak, sometimes strong. Sad or happy, no matter scrappy. Nothing's easy and nothing's perfect. We still complain and we fuss. But long as we stay together, it's the big time for us. Rogers and Rogers and Rogers, Rogers, Rogers.
don't.
Will, I wanted them to do their homework so that somebody in this family gets past the 5th grade.
Oh, come on, Blake. They've been all over the country. Think of the geography lesson they're getting. Have you folks ever noticed that whenever I'm in trouble, I call my wife Blake? So lately, I just started calling her Blake all the time in case I was in trouble and I didn't know it.
Will, we have to talk.
How do we make it go, Pop? How do we make it go?
Just holler, giddy up, and hold on.
Giddy up, Comanche! Whoa!
Now, what were you saying, Blake?
Talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful Erlanger Theater is proud to present the star of our show, that Oklahoma philosopher, Will Rogers.
Sorry, honey, I gotta go do a show.
But Will, we have to talk. When I was very young, I had a perfect life. My pa the perfect husband and my ma the perfect wife. And every day my life went by so perfectly. I made a perfect plan, I dreamed some perfect dreams. But now I look around, my dreams are splitting at the seams. I made one big decision and now look at me. When I do something wrong, I do it perfectly. My big mistake, roping you in. I got my wish, now I can't win. I thought once I'd caught you, you'd quit your roaming. But I'm the one who's caught in a world I'm not at home in. My big mistake, thinking you change, fancy in life, home on the range, 'cause I like days all carefully reckoned. You live life from second to second, yet just touch me, and there's no other choice I'd make. I love my big mistake.
Betty Blake, telephone call for Miss Betty Blake.
Oh, it's you again, little Miss Understudy. Well, you can relax. I'm feeling just fine. And by the way, the name is Rogers now. Betty Rogers, I'm married.
But Mr. Ziegfeld says the wedding always ends the act.
I know. Don't tell him. But we saw Justice of the Peace in Buffalo 7 years ago. You won't tell Mr. Ziegfeld, will you?
Oh, don't worry, honey. Your secret's safe with me. Not.
Hello? Zulecki, is that you? How are you and the other girls? Still single? How's my life? It's great, of course, just great. You should see the deluxe hotels we stay at and the fancy restaurants we eat in here and wherever we are. The children? Oh, they love it too, of course, almost as much as I do. When are we coming home? I'm not sure, Zulecki. When you're having the time of your life like we are, it's pretty hard to tear yourself away. Yes, I love you too. Tell the girls I miss them. Bye. I like days all carefully reckoned. You live life from second to second.
Blake?
Oh, Will, I didn't see you.
You know, I was thinking during the show tonight, how long we been at this? 7 years? Maybe my pa was right. Maybe I should have stayed in Oklahoma.
Will, are you serious?
Well, I sure am. So let's face it, Blake, where I'm going's nowhere, and Oklahoma's as good as nowhere any day.
But you're top of the bill now.
Top of the bill in Cedar Rapids, still earning only $100 a week. maybe a man has a right to go on kidding himself, but not when he's got a wife and family.
But Will,
Now, Blake, I don't care how much you love the life. My mind's made up. We're going home to Oklahoma. Now, what was it you wanted to talk to me about?
Oh, Will, I love you so much. But are you really sure?
Of course. My big break was going to come along. It would have been here by now.
Telegram for Mr. Rogers. Telegram for Mr. Will Rogers.
That's me.
Are you Will Rogers, that roping fool?
Nope. As of right now, it's just Will Rogers. Thank you.
Mr. Will Rogers, Fox Theater, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Dear Mr. Rogers, pleased to invite you to the 9th edition of my Follies, starring W.C. Fields, Eddie Cantor, and Ed Wynn. Stop. Can offer you a salary of $600 a week. Stop. Expecting an immediate and affirmative reply. Most sincerely, Florence Ziegfeld.
What is it, Will? Bad news? Your father's not sick again.
Oh, no, it's nothing. Just another booking. You go and pack up and collect the kids while I give notice. We could be back on the ranch by Sunday night.
Oh, Will, you'll never regret this. After all, it's not as though you were giving up a really big opportunity or anything. I mean, giving up 5 a day in Cedar Rapids is not like turning down, say, the Ziegfeld Follies. You can't expect anyone in his right mind to turn down the Follies. But why talk about that? I mean, who in his right mind would offer you the Follies?
You're being a great sport, Blake. But I'm not even sure those New York folks will put up with my little act with the rope.
It's not a little act anymore, Will. Not since that day back in Milwaukee when you got all tangled up in the Texas skip and you ad-libbed that line, "Heck, folks, it looks like I got all my feet through but one."
Get out of here.
You're a talker now, Will. Mr. Ziegfeld doesn't pay $600 a week for a few rope tricks, and you give them a new show every night. All I know is what I read in the papers. There's not another act like yours anywhere on the circuit, Will, and that's why we're asking for $700.
Oh, Blake, I love you so much.
It's the Follies, and there's no other choice to make. I love my big mistake.
star of the Ziegfeld Follies of 1921, the poet laureate of the United States, Mr. Will Rogers.
Never met a man I didn't like. Hello, ladies.
Hello, Will.
Don't catch cold now. You know, Mr. Ziegfeld spends millions of dollars on costumes, so I can't understand why he don't let the girls wear them. Now, I want to thank all you folks for making it here today for my anniversary. This here marks my 2,500th consecutive performance at the Follies here in New York. A whole lot's happened in the last 6 years. The world lost a few important men. Teddy Roosevelt died, Tsar Nicholas of Russia, and my pa, Clem Rogers. Now, it might surprise you folks to learn that the three of them shared something in common. That's right, none of them ever caught my act. Well, now, I've got an important announcement to make. This here marks my final appearance in the Follies. Tomorrow, I'm heading off to Hollywood, California to be a screen actor. That's what I said. And not only that, I'll be flying out there by aeroplane.
Be careful, Will.
Oh, I won't actually be doing the flying. I'll just be along for the ride. I'll leave the flying to those folks who know how, like Wiley Post.
Take off and
Let's go flying, Will.
Hello, Wiley. How come you're always here?
Well, I'm waiting for you. You promised you'd fly with me up to Alaska.
Not yet, Wiley. That don't come till the end of the show. Never saw a fella so anxious to break his neck. And mine, too. So anyway, I'm off to Hollywood, California. My only regret is that my pa didn't live long enough to see me up there on the silver screen. He never would have approved of it, though. The way he used to say it, an actor's ego is the only thing there is that keeps on growing without any nourishment. Also, thought I'd like to try my hand at that new device we got called radio.
That'll be an improvement. At least they won't be able to see you.
Paul, what are you doing here? I just told him you're dead. You died 6 years ago.
So did some of your jokes, but they're still hanging around.
Where'd you get the wings, Pa? Wardrobe?
Hell no, they're real.
Do they work?
Nah, I still need the damn stairway.
Well, I was just telling the folks what a shame it is you never lived to see my success.
Success? What success?
You know what I do, Pa. I'm the star of this show.
Not as far as I'm concerned. Hello, ladies.
Hello, Uncle Clem.
Forget it, Pa. You're dead.
Yeah, but they're not. What is it you were saying, Willie?
I'm heading off to Hollywood to be a movie star.
You? I may be dead, Sonny, but I'm not blind. You sure aren't much to look at.
Well, I figure that's half your fault. Instead of running me down like this, you ought to be proud.
Proud?
That's right. I make people laugh. Just ask the audience. They like what I do.
What do they know? They like the dog act. Listen to me, Willie.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah?
Oh, he means me, Pa.
Mr. Rogers, what the hell is going on down there? I'm paying you to do a show.
Yes, sir. I gotta get back to work now, Pa.
Now listen to me, Willie. I know I wanted you to be a rancher like me, but if it wasn't in you, you could have been a doctor or an inventor. Someone who makes a difference, who changes the world. Because that's what greatness is, son. Leaving the world different from the way you found it.
It's great to be great, Pa, but it's greater to be human.
Don't you want to be great, son?
No man's great if he thinks he is, Pa.
Who said that?
I did.
Yeah? Well, that's not so bad. Hey, what's going on?
Well, it sounds like a wedding. Oh, this must be the end of Act 1. You better go now, Pa.
All right, Willie. Goodbye, ladies.
Goodbye, Uncle Clem.
But just remember one thing, son. Life isn't as long as the young think it is. You'll want to have something to look back on, something we can both be proud of. Any morning you could wake up dead, then it's too late. Take it from me, Willie. It comes up on you faster than you think. Take it from me.
Blake, you look beautiful. We're heading for a wedding. That's wedding number 2. I loved it the first time. How could this be a worse time? As long as it's with you. Marry me now. Marry me then. I don't care how, or where, why, or when. Anytime you ask me, I'll rush to the altar. Won't even falter the 1,000th time. Ask me this fall, ask me next spring. Can't get enough of such a good thing. Make my life a honeymoon heaven for 2. All my days and my nights, like Turkish daylights, marrying you.
As Mr. Ziegfeld said, with laughing and wailing, and miles of hailing, to float from Betty's head. Oh.
I got you for the second time. I got you, it's a second splice. I got you double ecstasy. I got you twice as nice. Down to the altar all sidle. I feel twice as bridal. No shy violet, let's middle islet. I got you, and I'm twice as glad. I got you, like I did before. I got you, once is not enough. I got you, so I got 4 more weeks.
Make my life a honeymoon heaven for 2.
A honeymoon heaven.
All my days
till
and my nights, like Turkish
I'm gonna
delights.
I'd be lost without you.
We're heading for a wedding that happened years ago. We've tasted wedded bliss now, but let's just steal a kiss now, as if we didn't know.
We're heading for a wedding. We promised you a wedding. A single kind of wedding. And now here comes the wedding.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered in this hallowed hall to unite 2 people in holy... I'm playing this part under protest, Sonny. Mr. Ziegfeld is too stingy to pay another actor. Do you, Betty Blake, take this no account to be your lawful wedded husband? Even though some fools think he's going to be America's biggest star? Which means he'll be so famous he won't be spending very much time at home, for richer or poor, for better or worse.
I do.
And do you, William Penadere Rogers, take this saintly woman who deserves better to be your lawful wedded wife, even though she will never quit trying to stop you from flying to Alaska with Wiley Post? Till death do you part?
Yep.
Then, with the power vested in me by Mr. Ziegfeld, that cheapskate, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You can kiss the bride now, Sonny.
And
a man enough rope.
Give a man enough rope.
Give a man enough rope.
Give a man enough rope.
And he can hang himself or not. That is a choice that he has got. He could wind up hanging down from a tree, or he could spin himself alive. That's what happened to me.
Give a man enough rope.
Give a man enough rope.
Give a man enough rope.
Give a man enough rope. You have two guys, a pile of dope. One spins it fast, one saves it slow. You make a choice. Up to you what you do. I met a lot of different folks and I got to meet you. Give a man enough rope. 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 Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And he can get all tangled in the figure eight. He tries to spin, but he had luck. And his rope made him free. He spun his fancy fingers, wrote his columns, made his speeches, loved his horses, loved his family, made his movies, played the follies, spun a lovely life.
That's what happened to me. Well, you're getting there. You're getting there.
Thanks, Mr. Rogers.
Well, you're coming along just fine. Now, you've been working on that really tough one I showed you, the double do-si-do with the chimney sweep?
Yes, Mr. Rogers.
Well, let's see you do it.
Okay. Can you show it to me one more time?
Sure, all right. Nah, you ought to be able to do it by now. Let's see you do it.
I'll try.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Felix
See you,
Lopez.
Thank you.
Well, I sure hope you folks all had a good rest during the intermission. I know I sure did. Now, if any of you took a smoke while you were up there, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. As far as I can tell, the only good thing about smoking tobacco is that it chases away the mosquitoes, which is proof positive that mosquitoes are a whole lot smarter than people. Well, now a number of things happened while you ladies were standing in line up there. We had 3 presidents. Mr. Harding, Mr. Coolidge, and Mr. Hoover. All of them Republicans. Well, the Democrats say they could have elected somebody if it hadn't been for that pesky law that says you're only allowed to vote once. Then we had that monkey trial down in Tennessee to prove that man was descended from the apes. But I never did believe that, because I never yet met an ape who was devious, heartless, or greedy. I always figured man was descended from lawyers.
Move it along, Mr. Rogers.
Well, like I always say, all I know is what I read in the papers. And lately, they're starting to use a new word, ecology, which only means, as far as I can tell, our land. Now, the pioneers, who didn't know any better, they went and cut down every tree in sight and never did plant one. And they plowed under all the land that should have been left to grass the way God intended. Now, they thought it was the land they were living off, but what they were really living off was future generations. The trouble with land is, they're just not making the stuff anymore. Look around, the world's a lovely sight. Lovely sky and sea, well, it used to be. Look around, the world is shining bright. Watch the green grass grow. Well, that once was so. Where's the spring that loved the rain? Where's the grove down Lover's Lane? Look around, they vanish overnight. Where's the lovely world I used to see? Ooh, close the open sky, the view clear to the horizon. Look around, they disappear from sight. And when I recall what used to be, I'm weeping like a weeping willow tree. Just look around, you'll see a memory. Thank you. Well, now that I got that off my chest, I suppose you folks are all dying to know how it was I came to run for president of these United States. Well, it was in the spring of 1928 when this really distinguished fella came to visit me at the Astor Hotel right here in New York.
Mr. Rogers, have you ever thought of running for president of the United States?
That's the fella. Now, I swear everything you folks are about to hear is the gospel truth, so help me Ziegfeld.
Mr. Rogers, now that you're back on top as the #1 box office star of stage, screen, radio, and newspapers, wouldn't you like to try for president?
Well, I don't know. Politics is the only branch of show business I ain't tried yet.
This country needs you, Mr. Rogers.
Well, I'll tell you, this country might be used to having anything at all named as a presidential candidate, but we haven't quite sunk to the professional actor stage. That's what I said in 1928, folks.
Do you mind telling me what political party you belong to?
Well, I don't belong to any organized party. I'm a Democrat.
Would you consider running as the candidate of the debunked party?
Debunk?
Exactly. Mr. Rogers, you've been invited to speak at the Republican convention in Kansas City, and you've also been invited to speak at the Democratic convention in Houston.
The Democratic convention? That's great. The Democrats always have more fun at their conventions because they know they're not going anywhere after.
So what do you say, Mr. Rogers? Since you're the first man in history who's ever been asked to address both conventions in the same year, you can ask them directly to vote for you.
Now, have you folks ever heard anything so nonsensical in all your life? A fella'd have to be plumb loco to give up a useful career in anything just to go into politics.
So what will it be, Mr. Rogers? Will you run for president or not?
I sure will.
Woo!
He will be strong and will ride on. He will be down the train is sunk. The day the people's victory is won. With spirit and stone, he's gonna be fun. The shepherd drunk and they've been feeding us. Hooray for our favorite son.
You Democrats and Republicans, I'm asking for your vote. I've got this debunked party with some new ideas to float. Don't ask me what my platform is, I leave that stuff alone. Cause no one keeps their promises, as history has shown. I'll run a clean campaign and that will be my winning card. Considering the kind you've had, well, that won't be too hard.
Mr. Chairman, The great Sooner State of Oklahoma, by a clean sweep by acclamation, we proudly placing nomination. The great Sooner State of Oklahoma cast its 22 votes. 22 votes for William Penn Rogers. William Penn Rogers. William Penn Rogers. Yeah!
The elephant trunk and Democrat donkey will be down the drain and sunk. The day the people's victory is won. With spirit and spunk, he's gonna debunk the jabber and junk that they've been feeding us. Hooray for our favorite son. Spirit and spunk, he's gonna debunk the jabber and junk that they've been feeding us. Hooray for our favorite son.
Hooray for our favorite, hooray for our favorite, hooray for our favorite son! Hooray! Thank you! Hooray, 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 hooray! With spirit and spunk, he's gonna debunk the jabber and junk that they've been feeding us. Hooray for our favorite, hooray for our favorite, hooray for our favorite son.
Well, those of you who bothered studying history in school might recall that I did not get elected president. The actual truth is, I did carry one state, namely the District of Columbia, which it turns out isn't any kind of state at all. However, I did take that as quite a personal compliment, since whoever gets elected, it's those folks who have to live with the fella for the next 4 years. But I got some advice for anyone who gets nominated in the future. Don't go around telling the truth, because nothing can hurt you more in an American election than telling the truth. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. Right. See, Mr. Ziegfeld always likes to have a moment that he calls trouble in paradise. See, only in this case, paradise was Hollywood, California. I guess we were pretty rich by now. We had our own polo field, and our little ranch house had 22 rooms. But the trouble was that because of my work, I wasn't getting to spend as much time at home with my family as I wanted to. So, this is that scene where the leading lady sings a torch song about her troubles while sitting on top of a piano.
Alone again and blue. He's left me alone again. What's new? All I do is sit and stare at a snapshot and an empty chair. What good's a man who's never there? He's a traveling man, he's a flying man, after dinner speaker, speechifying man. He's a one-man show on the radio. He's a columnist, friend of presidents, movie star for all the nation's residents, Ziegfeld starring man, walking, talking man, Mr. Busy Bee. There's no man left for me. Sometimes I tell myself the worm's turning. I'll pack a bag and leave him flat. But every time I start, this feeling floods my heart. He needs me to feed the cat. But when I'm by myself, I'm so lonesome. A party makes it twice as grim. The people laugh and play. My mind is miles away. It's off on the road with him. Hotel stay and then suitcase packing man. When I look around me, he's the lacking man. He's most anywhere, land or sea or air. As an absentee, he's the winner man. Out to lunch and won't be home for dinner man. Loop the looping man, fly the cooping man. It's so plain to see. He won't miss me. He don't need me. Gonna get away from Mr. Busy Bee. I can't make love to a shadow, and there's no man left for Thank you, Hastings. I feel much better now.
Thank you, madame. You believe what he's got me doing now? Will there be anything else, madame?
No, thank you, Hastings. Where are the children?
They're off stage, madame, waiting for their entrance music.
Mom! Yes, Mom! He's home!
Hello, Blake!
Hello, stranger.
Uh-oh. Well, I decided it was safer to change the subject, so I spent a few minutes reacquainting myself with the kids. Incidentally, a lot of folks have been asking how come the kids never get any bigger. Well, I tell them, of course they got bigger, but to demonstrate that, we'd need another whole set of kids, and Mr. Ziegfeld says 4 of them are enough for any show. Oh, by the way, there ought to only be 3 by now. Little Freddie here passed on during the diphtheria epidemic of 1920. I'm afraid you'll have to run along now, son.
Do I have to, Pa? Grandpa Clem's is dead and he gets to stay in the show.
Well, you got me there, son. I guess you can stick around.
Yay!
But you're all going to have to leave your mom and me alone right now so we can talk. She's mighty upset about something, and there's no use pretending I don't know what it is. So go on upstairs to your room.
All the way up, Pa?
Halfway is good enough. Now scoot. How bad is it, Blake?
Pretty bad. The last time you were home, you couldn't remember where the bathroom was.
Well, it's a pretty big house, Blake.
Even bigger without you in it. Will, do you realize in the past year alone you've turned out 4 full-length talking pictures, 52 radio shows, 365 newspaper columns, spoken at 151 banquets, and visited 19 countries on 5 continents?
Well, I know that.
Sure, you know it, but they don't. Will, why do you keep traveling? What are you looking for?
Well, people. I just can't get over them, Blake. No matter how different they look and talk, they're all just the same. Of course, there's getting to be too many of them. But the one thing I've learned is they all want exactly the same thing. 3 meals a day and a good night's sleep.
We're people too, Will. And all we want is more of you.
Does that mean you don't want all the expensive presents I brought you?
What presents?
I've got them waiting outside. Here's a small sample. This here's the most famous amethyst in the world. I got it in Ceylon. It came off the statue of a goddess, but I thought it'd look better on you.
Oh, Will, this had to cost a fortune. You shouldn't have spent so much money.
Life sure is crazy. I got a wife telling me not to spend what my pa said I'd never make.
I want you to take it back.
To Ceylon? Okay.
Will Rogers, you come back here. Okay, I'll keep it. But I just can't believe we're this rich.
Well, haven't you read the papers lately? Prosperity has arrived. The whole country's rich. There's never been a time in our history when so many fools are making money. Haven't you heard what Mr. Hoover's been telling us, Blake? 2 chickens in every pot, 2 cars in every garage, 2 mortgages on every house, and 2 hearts beating in 3/4 time. So let's just relax and enjoy it. We've been through so much together, dark torrential weather. We've managed to muddle through every muddy puddle. Old soul would never shine. Still you kept your hand in mine. Out comes the sun. Why run? Oh, stick with me, baby. Let's kick up our heels. Taste the best of it, sniff the zest of it, feel how luxury feels. Take the fruits of our labors and splurge to the hilt. We deserve to be blooming before we must wilt. Where's the gold in the good life if you're knee-deep in guilt? Listen, honey, it's only money. Diamonds for Mrs. Rogers. They shine so bright like the light in your eyes. Rubies for Mrs. Rogers. Not like the rhinestones you once got from other guys. Sapphires so blue and brilliant, they all combine to make your gems red, white, and blue. With all the jewels above, I'm saluting our love. I'm true blue to the flag and true to you. Emeralds for Mrs. Rogers, 'cause I turn green when you don't look my way. Topaz, not quite so precious. Perhaps Madame could wear them on some rainy day. Pearls for Mrs. Rogers to grace the neckline of the queen who rules my heart. Rare as the jewels above, you were fashioned for love. You are nature's perfect living work of art. Diamonds for Mrs. Rogers. They seem so dim when compared to your eyes. Topaz and precious emeralds, and rubies red and sapphires blue in just your size. Pearls for Mrs. Rogers, these are necessities no wife of mine should lack. If you will have nothing of all these proofs of my love, I'll throw them in a sack and take them back.
What the hell's going on down there? What are you doing to the set? Stop it. Stop it at once. Do you hear me? Peter, come out on stage immediately.
Yes, Mr. Z.
What are those people doing, Peter?
I'm sorry, Mr. Z. We're shutting down.
Shutting down? I didn't order anyone to shut down.
I know, Mr. Z. There's been a general economic collapse because of the stock market crash. There's a depression going on.
Outside, maybe, but not in here. This is the Follies, Peter. I don't allow any depression in here.
We've run out of money, Mr. Z. We can't meet our payroll. Everybody here is out of work, just like the rest of the country. I'm sorry, sir. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry.
Mr. Ziegfeld! Mr. Ziegfeld, what about me? Mr. Ziegfeld?
Will, does that mean we're poor again?
No, not us. A whole lot of folks, but not us.
Why not us, Will?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm in the cheering up business, and right now that business has never been better. I don't feel right about it. How can I face all those people who've lost everything? What can I say to them?
Will, do you remember something you said to me a long time ago? A man makes a living by what he gets. He makes a life by what he gives.
I said that?
Yes.
That's not so bad. And what can I give them now?
What do you mean? For the past 2 years you've done benefits for flood relief, drought relief, famine relief. How much more can one man do?
Blake, the president wants me to go on the radio after his speech tonight and make people feel better about things. I don't know what to tell them.
Tell them what you've always told them, Will. The truth.
10 seconds, Mr. Rogers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard an address from the President of the United States, the Honorable Herbert Hoover. And now, at Mr. Hoover's invitation, a few words from America's favorite humorist, Mr. Will Rogers.
Mr. Hoover wanted someone to follow him who could cheer you folks up. Well, he must have been pretty desperate if he had to ask a Democrat. Trouble is, who's going to cheer me up? Because all I know is what I see on the street corners, and what I see tonight are people without jobs, without homes, and without food. They're our own people, American people. I hear tell that 16 million souls are unemployed, a full third of the workforce. Now, these people are asking for our help, but they're not asking for charity, they're asking for a job. And the next best thing we can do is see to it that they have food and the necessities of life. We've got the money, because there's as much money in this country as there ever was, only fewer people have it. But it's there. The president promised this country prosperity, but up until now only a handful of men have gotten any. The difference between our rich and our poor grows greater every year. A man can make $1 million overnight, and he's on the front page of every paper the next morning, but it never tells who gave up the million that he got. Because you can't get money without taking it from somebody else. And that means there's not a one of us who has anything that doesn't owe some part of it to those who need it now. I don't suppose that the most unemployed or the hungriest man hasn't contributed in some way to the wealth of every millionaire in America. It wasn't the working man who brought this depression thing on at all. It was the big boys themselves who thought that this financial drunk the country was going through was going to last forever. They over-borrowed and over-merged and over-capitalized and over everything else, and that's the fix we're in now. People are starving to death. Americans, can you hear that? In this country, with more wheat and more corn and more everything else than any country in the world, we've got people starving. No country ever had more and no country ever had less. 10 men could buy the whole world, and 10 million can't buy enough to eat. We hold the distinction of being the first nation in the history of the world to go to the poorhouse in an automobile. It's up to us, to every one of us who doesn't go to bed hungry at night, to see to it that no one else does either. You'd think that some of the big men would understand that and try and fix it, and that they'd try and arrange a better distribution of things, because if they don't do that, then they're not big men. And that's all there is to it. Where are all the big men? Lord, we sure could use one now. I can't say any more about it than that.
That's the sorriest looking sight I ever saw.
Hello, Pa.
What's the matter with you, boy? You're standing there like a mope.
Never thought I'd hear myself say this, Pa, but I guess you were right.
Of course I was right. About what?
Me? People are in trouble, Pa, real trouble, and all I ever did about it was tell jokes. Looks like I've run out of those.
Now, those weren't jokes you were cracking, Sonny.
So you keep telling me, Pa.
I don't know what the hell they were, but they sure made people feel better. You know, Willie, there was a fella up at the ranch, an Indian, of course, who used to say that the smartest people in the world were the ones who answered the questions that the rest of us weren't smart enough to ask. I figure that's sort of what you've been doing.
Well, what good did it do?
I don't know. Maybe none at all.
Well, you always said I had to leave things different from the way I found them.
I know what I said, son, but there's one thing I've learned from where I sit now. It takes time to judge the true worth of a man. Someone who looks awful big today could turn out to be a joke in the history books. Take it from me, Sonny. People are going to forget the names of senators, judges, millionaires, even presidents. I only found out about Franklin Pierce last week. But I wouldn't be surprised if sometime down the pike they're gonna remember you.
Franklin Pierce? Was he president?
So they say, right between Fillmore and Buchanan.
I never heard of them either.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you, Willie. Only you're different. Because you never quit telling folks what damn fools they are. And since you're too simple to have any malice in you, you made them love every minute of it. Now, I'm gonna tell you a joke, Sonny. Seems this ugly old sinner arrives at the pearly gates, and St. Peter says, I'm sorry, your name's not on the list. So the old sinner thinks for a minute, and then he says, but I'm Will Rogers' father. So St. Peter smiles and says, why the hell didn't you say so? Well, I'm saying so now, son. I'm proud of you. Well, aren't you going to thank me?
For what, Pa?
For your success.
My success?
Hell yes. It proves there's a whole lot more of me in you than both of us ever suspected. Your wit and wisdom let us see all the foibles of this century. What a man, a hell of a man is my Will. Just multiply me by the millions.
G-Pop, just one of you will do.
Your public numbers in the billions.
Like you keep saying, Pop, I owe it all to you.
Will a mania, he's welcome at the White House. Will sure gets around. He talks up everywhere and tells us what's what. All movie stars, he film star, he's hotter than hot.
Let's go flying, Will.
That you, Wiley?
So long, Willie. I'll be seeing you pretty soon, I suspect.
What do you mean, Pa?
Time to go flying, Will.
See you, Willie.
You talking about Alaska, Wiley?
I'm afraid so.
Not yet, Wiley. I'm not ready.
No one ever is, son.
Well, there's still so much more I want to do.
Don't fight it, Willie.
Pa?
Let's go, Will.
Not yet, Wiley. I need more time.
No, you say your goodbyes. I'll be waiting for you out at the field.
I don't know why we're afraid to go. Maybe it's because we're afraid we haven't done anything that'll live after we're gone.
Will, do you have to go?
I guess so.
Why?
Because I went.
Will Rogers, if anything happens to you, if you get yourself killed...
What'll you do, Blake?
I'll never speak to you again. Without you, I'm a nameless face. Without you, I'm the lowest rung. Without you, lost in no man's land. Without you, I'm a song unsung.
The plane had just taken off from the lagoon in Alaska when I noticed it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, namely fly. We're going down, Wiley, I remarked, as casual as possible under the circumstances. Hell, Will, said Wiley. No one stays up forever. Old Wiley was right a lot of the time. Anyway, the plane was headed straight down, and the law of gravity being the only law that human beings haven't yet broken, old Wiley and me decided to go right along with it. Weekend papers must have been pretty hard up for news, which would explain why they made such a big deal about it. The New York Times gave us 4 pages on Saturday and another 4 on Sunday. Put us right up there with that other big crash. One on Wall Street. Not bad for a one-eyed flyer and a half-breed rope spinner.
The accident occurred on August 15th, 1935, 300 miles north of the Arctic Circle, near Point Barrow, Alaska.
Colonel Charles A. Lindbergh took personal charge of bringing the bodies home.
Lucky Lindy'd always been a personal favorite of mine. He was the first fella to prove you could get the entire front page of the New York Daily News without murdering anybody.
On August 22nd, the last rites were held in Los Angeles, California.
50,000 people filed by the casket.
President and Mrs. Roosevelt sent an expression of grief.
You know, a funeral's a funny thing when you stop and think about it. It's a chance for folks to say all kinds of nice things about you that they didn't want you to hear when you were alive.
He was only 55 years old.
Now, look on the bright side. Prolonged life has ruined more reputations than it ever made.
In Washington, both houses of Congress observed a minute of silence.
Now, a minute might not sound like much, till you realize whose mouth's being shut.
Flags throughout the country flew at half-mast.
The nation's motion picture theaters went dark.
Both NBC and CBS went off the air for a full half hour.
Through the media of radio, motion pictures, and newspaper syndication, Will Rogers reached more people around the world than anyone in history before him.
Well, mainly because most of those gadgets didn't come along till I did. I'm kind of glad I missed television, though. I'd have hated cheating folks out of reading a good book.
In New York, a squadron of airplanes from the Army Air Corps flew information over the city. Each plane had a long black streamer behind it.
I loved airplanes ever since my first flight and never missed a chance to ride in one. I could never get my paw to go up, though. He'd always say, if God had meant us to fly, he wouldn't have made the ground so hard.
Will Rogers traveled to 6 continents and met almost every king and head of state on the earth. Not since Abraham Lincoln had the death of any American touched so many people.
He told us the truth and made us laugh at it.
People are always asking me what it was like being married to a national monument. But of course, I never saw him that way. After all, national monuments do not kiss back.
When he was in Washington, he stayed in the White House.
When he was home, he was the best husband in the world.
You know, ever since I moved out to Hollywood, I was something of a curiosity. It seems I was the only fella in the movie business still married to the same wife I started out with. No, the reason for this is simple. There hasn't been a minute since I first met Betty Blake that I didn't love her with all my heart. Now, I know I wasn't easy to be married to. Betty used to say her only competition was everybody in the world. I always told her she didn't have to worry. I didn't love everybody in the world. I merely liked them. Guess I met a whole lot of people in my lifetime. I always tried to approach them the same way my Indian ancestors would. See, an Indian always looks back after he passes something to get a good look at it from both sides. White man don't do that. He just figures that all sides of a thing are automatically the same. That's why you must never judge a man while you're facing him. You got to go around behind him like an Indian would and get a look at what he's looking at. And go back around and face him and you'll have a totally different idea who he is. Be surprised how much easier it is to get along with people. Never met a man I didn't like. Highfalutin gent or Bowery bum. Yes, I've come a long way down the pike. Never met a man I didn't like. Never shook a hand I didn't like. Highfalutin gent or working Joe, though I know life's one long rocky hike. Never met a man I didn't like. In all of my wandering, I bumped into all kinds of people. Fancy cinema stars, fake evangelists, politicians, morticians, and I have reached the conclusion while hiking the pike. Yes, I'll say till I'm done. No, I never met one that I didn't like. I said I roamed along the Napa Valley, Schubert Alley, Rue de la Paix, Oklahoma and Kalamazoo. And I have reached the conclusion while hiking the pike. Yes, I'll say till I'm done. No, I never met one that I didn't like. Met the worst, met the best. Some that put me to the test. Almost made me change my mind. Still somehow I'd always find if you don't expect too much, there's a certain human touch. Homo sapiens has got, other animals have not. Try the shoes on that are his. what makes him what he is, what it's like inside his skin, living in the skin he's in, just like me, a lump of sod there, but for the grace of God. That is the philosophy of this part-time Cherokee. President King or Pat and Mike, folks can laugh, but I can't give up hope. Spun my robe a long way down the pike. Never met a man I didn't like. High-tone gent, Bowery bum, Prince of Wales, Working Joe, Pat and Mike, Cherokee philosophy. Never met a man I didn't like. Thank you all so much. We sure had a good time with you folks tonight. Now, if any of you are going out after the show, I want you to remember that the bars here in Oakland close at 2 a.m. Now, I know a lot of folks object to that, but heck, if you can't get drunk by 2 a.m., then you ain't trying. If you do drink, for heaven's sake, don't drive. Drunk driving's killed more people in this country than all our wars put together. So go on out and have a good life. And if you want my advice on how to do that, always live your life in such a way that you'll never be embarrassed to have Mr. Ziegfeld do a show about you. Thank you so much. Good night.